I'm John Favreau, and joining me today is the Bulwark's Will Sommer. Will, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you've been on the right-wing conspiracy beat for a long time. You are now writing an excellent twice-weekly newsletter, aptly named False Flag at the Bulwark, where you've been doing a lot of great reporting on the Epstein drama, the kooks in charge of federal law enforcement, Loomer, Candace Owens, all of whom have been making news lately, unfortunately. So I wanted to have you on to talk about how to make sense of this, the extremely online lunatics who now seem to occupy positions of great power and influence. But before we wade into the fever swamps, how'd you come to this beat? What got you interested in the world of right-wing conspiracies?
So they are basically I was a teen Republican long ago, and I just loved consuming the right-wing media, getting into things like Bill O'Reilly, and this was when Ben Shapiro was just getting started. His big thing was that he was a college student who was still a virgin. That was kind of his kind of claim to fame. And then with the war in Iraq, things like that, my politics changed. But I still just had this huge appetite for right-wing media, and it's so so interesting to follow. I mean, there's constantly feuds, and kind of the ideological fluctuations are always interesting. And so then I started writing about it in 2016, basically after my girlfriend was like, how about instead of bugging me about this, you start writing about it? And I did. And of course, ever since, it's unfortunately become more and more relevant.
As good a reason as any to start doing something, to stop bugging your significant other. All right, let's start, of course, with Jeffrey Epstein. It is now the 1-month anniversary of the Justice Department's announcement that they would not be releasing the Epstein files. Happy anniversary to you. The Trump administration is celebrating by holding a meeting tonight, Wednesday night, at J.D. Vance's residence to strategize about how to make the Epstein scandal go away. It includes all the officials you typically see in a political strategy session: the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, the FBI Director. According to CNN, they'll be deciding whether to release the interview that Trump's former defense attorney, now Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, conducted with Ghislaine Maxwell, who the administration has transferred with no explanation from federal prison to a cushy minimum security facility known as Club Fed. She's, of course, also seeking a pardon from Trump, who hasn't ruled it out. There's also reports now that she didn't say that Trump did anything bad around Epstein. Surprise, surprise. You have been deep in the Epstein beat for the last month. What's the vibe in MAGA World right now? Are people cool with the kid glove treatment for the convicted child sex trafficker who was Epstein's main accomplice, or how are people thinking about this?
Yeah, I think the administration has bought itself a little time here. I mean, it's the summer. I think the House closing early to avoid this vote on releasing the files helped. But ultimately, I think if the idea is that it's headed towards Ghislaine exonerating Trump and then getting some preferential treatment, you mentioned her prison search, which is switch, which is so crazy and basically unprecedented. If ultimately that's headed towards a pardon or a cooperation deal, I don't think the MAGA base, and I think especially these kind of like Rogan-esque independents, I don't think they're going to buy it. I mean, I think people understand that Ghislaine is going to say whatever she can to get out of prison. And just what I'm seeing in terms of internet comments, things like that, people aren't really convinced.
Is there a split between a lot of the MAGA influencers on this? Because I've seen, and right-wing media, because I've seen Newsmax sort of flirting with becoming pro-Ghislaine Maxwell. Maybe she was just a victim. You got the people like your Benny Johnsons and people like that who seem more willing to carry the administration's water here on whatever they say about Ghislaine Maxwell. And then, of course, I do think, the Joe Rogans, the Flagrant podcast, all those folks, they seem to be seeing right through this. But are there different factions here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple slices. I mean, on one hand, you have Newsmax, which has really been out on the free Ghislaine rehabilitation. I mean, it's sick, but it's true. Part of that, I think, is that Alex Acosta, the former federal prosecutor and labor secretary who was involved in Epstein's deal, he's on the board of Newsmax. So I think they have a good reason to act like, oh, Epstein wasn't that big a deal. Then you have people like Megyn Kelly, Benny Johnson, who I think are going to basically carry the administration's water, whatever it is, but they still need to like if they pardon Ghislaine or something else big happens, they can't totally ignore it. I think this Russiagate saga we've been seeing from the administration, where every day or two they're like, we found the real smoking gun. Okay, the last one was a Russian plant. We know, but this is really going to mean Obama goes to prison. I think that has given right-wing media stuff to talk about for a little while. But I mean, unless they charge people, it's kind of creating a new expectation that they're not going to deliver on. And then finally, you have people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. I mean, this is on my mind. Candace Owens had a episode with Milo Yiannopoulos yesterday, where they dressed all in black as a funeral for MAGA. I mean, they're rending their garments over like how they've lost faith with Trump because of Epstein.
Well, that's kind of fun. I do like that. Let's talk about the Republicans in the House. The Oversight Committee has subpoenaed a whole bunch of people surrounding the Epstein scandal, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, as part of the probe. I mean, obviously, it's a concerted effort to make this a Democratic scandal and not a Trump scandal. Do you think people will buy that? I mean, obviously, there is a desire among the MAGA faithful for this to just become a Democratic scandal again, which is what they originally thought it was. You think there's going to be some motivated reasoning there? Is this going to work?
You're right on. I mean, they're definitely trying to say, well, Epstein, that's the big Bill Clinton thing. They're kind of trying to go back to the status quo before the DOJ memo. Something else I thought is interesting here is they've subpoenaed all of these former attorneys general, who are now, because of the party's kind of MAGA tilt, even Republican attorneys general are seen as like lib coded now. And so you have they're like, we're going to get Bill Barr. We're going to get Alberto Gonzalez. I saw someone was saying, some big right-wing pundit was saying, the key here is Jeff Sessions, who of course they all hate. And so he's on the subpoena list too. But again, I mean, I'm a little reluctant to say that this is going to work. I mean, I think on one hand, I think let's say Bill Clinton just gets in there and says, oh yeah, it was this big scheme and I loved going to Epstein Island or whatever. I mean, I think that's just going to raise more questions ultimately. Like the administration here, I think is in a real bind.
And no Alex Acosta on the list, I see. I guess he's busy on the board of Newsmax.
Isn't that curious? Yeah, Alex Acosta, who is basically the whole source, this kind of third-hand reported remark that Epstein was intelligence, and that's why they had to go lightly on him, that he supposedly said to sort of exonerate himself. I mean, that's a question they could ask him about. And yet, that's a guy who apparently is not going to be called.
Trump has been waging what you've called a monumental distraction campaign over the last few weeks to distract attention away from his Epstein issues. Rosie O'Donnell should lose her citizenship. Sydney Sweeney's hot. Taylor Swift's not. Commander should become the Redskins again. He's hitting all the culture war erogenous zones. But you mentioned this, like the most absurd, convoluted, and I think now alarming distraction is this attempt to relitigate the decade-old investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, which, as absurd as I thought it was at first, has now resulted in the Department of Justice ordering a grand jury criminal investigation into the repeatedly debunked conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama concocted the entire Russia investigation to hurt Trump. What do you make of the escalation by the DOJ? Because there's one way to read it as, Tulsi was trying to get back into Trump's good graces, so she declassified the intelligence and did that press conference and, said that there was a crime of the century, Obama should go to jail. And then she threw it in Pam Bondi's lap, and now Pam Bondi has to do something to make sure that Trump knows that she's carrying water for him. But, do you think this is going to go anywhere, or do you think everyone's just sort of trying to act the part here?
You're right. I mean, it really shouldn't go anywhere. On one hand, it is so farcical. I mean, the Kathy Young at The Bulwark has done a lot of writing about how there's this sort of smoking gun email that, in fact, is probably a Russian fake, that even the report that they're all excited about that supposedly proves the conspiracy theory says, this is probably a Russian fake. And yet, there's a lot of pressure on Pam Bondi now. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard kind of got out of the hot seat by saying, oh my gosh, look at all this Russiagate stuff we found. I'm just going to hand it off to Pam and it's on her are now. And so ultimately, I mean, I don't think she wants to lose her job. And so she's impaneled this grand jury and now is trying to, to get at least some amount of charges. I mean, the whole thing is just really crazy. I think it's not sinking in so much with the base because, again, it is really convoluted. I mean, this stuff is like these classic characters, Bruce and Nellie Orr, Peter Strzok. I mean, this is like a decade old now. And now people are being asked, we got to meet the cast of the George Soros Open Societies Foundation, all of these different things that people are being expected to understand. I mean, the legal thing here I think is really crazy. So because this goes back so far, a lot of the statute of limitations, even if there were crimes here, have expired. But John Solomon, who's this kind of quasi-reporter who parrots a lot or puts out a lot of administration trial balloons. That's being generous, I think. That he claims that there's this investigation called the Grand Conspiracy that somehow would link the Jack Smith, files at Mar-a-Lago investigation all the way back to like 2015 and the Steele dossier and everything, that they can get everyone on a RICO charge. And because of the raid at Mar-a-Lago, the grand jury can be in Florida, which would presumably be more open to charging people. And so, I mean, it seems like really convoluted and unlikely to work, but that's what they're up to.
I've seen a few people do this. I've seen Tulsi say this too. Like, what the hell does the raid at Mar-a-Lago over Trump stealing classified documents have anything at all to do with even their craziest conspiracies about the Russia investigation? I can't figure that out, except for clearly they want to try this in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it was like being mean to Mr. Trump is the crime. And, they're sweeping whatever they can into that. And you're right. I mean, they are obsessed with getting the jurisdiction out of D.C. because obviously that's a more liberal grand jury pool.
But yeah, I mean, look, my theory on this as I saw it go to the grand jury is it is not difficult to get an indictment from a grand jury, partly because there is no judge present. There's no defense attorney. It's just the prosecutor talking to the grand jury, presenting evidence, and then also framing what the law is. So usually grand jury indictments do get returned, and I could see them wanting an indictment headline before some judge laughed it out of the courtroom, which is probably what would happen in almost every courtroom in the country, because for a million different reasons, like statute of limitations being one of them, but also the fact that it doesn't seem like there are any laws being broken, even with what they allege. But I mean,
what's the chain of custody for this evidence? It's from the Russian government. I mean, like how could you possibly say, well, we have this tranche that we got somehow from the KGB or the GRU? I mean, how are you going to bring that up in court?
And again, forget about Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. What did John Brennan, Clapper, Comey, anyone else do with that information that is somehow against the law other than surface it somewhere? It's fucking crazy. You sound crazy talking about it when you try to explain it to someone, because I have tried to do this a few times, and you get 2 sentences in and people are like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes people tune out, but it is a very real thing. I mean, that's the challenge. I mean, this is kind of the pretext that's being constructed here, at minimum, to get out of Epstein and also potentially for these prosecutions.
Offline is brought to you by Mint Mobile. You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. While you're planning beach trips, barbecues, and 3-day weekends, your wireless bill should be the last thing holding you back. That's why you should make the switch to Mint Mobile. With Mint, you can get the coverage and speed you're used to, but for way less money. And for a limited time, Mint Mobile's offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for $15 a month. So while your friends are sweating over data overages and surprise charges, you'll be chilling, literally and financially. But maybe not literally, but definitely financially. Say bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of unlimited service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. Crooked's own Nina made the switch to Mint Mobile. She says she never has to worry about unexpected charges on her bill each month. Just one low price, reliable service, and excellent data speed.
Nice.
And we can attest to that because she always zooms into our Pod Save America meetings.
Crystal clear.
Crystal
it's like she's
clear.
in the room, like a hologram.
It's great. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/offline. That's mintmobile.com/offline. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Offline is brought to you by Hims. As Lovett always says, ED is more common than you think.
That's my famous catchphrase. The audience applauds when I say it. They're like waiting for me to say it. When's he going to say it? Like Kramer coming in.
And now it's simpler to treat than ever. Through Hims, you can connect online with a licensed provider to access personalized treatment options discreetly and on your terms. Through Hims, you can access personalized prescription treatment options for ED.
All things are possible through Hims.
Like hard mints and Sex RX plus climax control.
Oh my God.
If prescribed.
Wow. Yeah.
That's Tommy's favorite. Hims offers access to ED treatment options ranging from hard mints to trusted generics that cost 95% less than brand names if prescribed. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatments that put your goals first. This isn't one-size-fits-all care that forgets you in the waiting room. It's your health and goals put first with real medical providers making sure you get what you need to get results. Think of Hims as your digital front door that gets you back to your old self with simple 100% online access.
When I think of Hims, I think of the back door.
I was hoping you'd say that. With simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for ED and more, all in one place. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/offline. That's hims.com/offline for your free online visit. Hims.com/offline. Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information. So I don't want to leave our Epstein discussion without talking about QAnon, which is a particular area of expertise for you. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you can probably summarize the two main tenets of QAnon as one, the government is controlled by an elite cabal of pedophiles, and two, Donald Trump will expose and then arrest those pedophiles. Given that, how are QAnon believers taking the news that Trump is in the Epstein files that his Justice Department is refusing to release?
Yeah, I mean, they've had to construct already, even before this, they had to construct elaborate rationalizations for why is Trump on video palling around with Jeffrey Epstein? Why is he giving quotes about how Jeffrey likes his women on the younger side? Like, what's up with this? And they said at the time, well, he was infiltrating the Epstein organization, or, he was going undercover with JFK Jr. or whoever. But it's been tough for them. I mean, I think they're saying that, the deep state is at it again. Obviously they've really latched onto this idea that Obama and Comey planted fake documents in the files. And so now we can't trust the files anymore. I mean, Benny Johnson has laid this out pretty well. So it's like you can't trust the files because who knows what Obama was up to. So now we can only trust Ghislaine Maxwell.
Are any QAnon adherents starting to think, maybe this isn't so right. Maybe this conspiracy is a bit off now that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files and they're not releasing it? Like, are there any cracks in the facade here?
Not that I've seen. I mean, Trump is their sort of messianic figure. I mean, so I think they're going down with the ship in terms of, I mean, it is truly crazy to think about that they built this whole worldview around Trump taking on the pedophile cabal. And then at minimum, he's writing kind of loving letters with little lewd illustrations to the head of the cabal.
The call is coming from inside the house. You wrote recently that Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino, a fan of mental health days, threw the QAnon land a bit of a bone. Can you talk to us about what he tweeted and how QAnon followers took his words?
So he threw out this, he's clearly, he was going to quit the FBI in a fit. He was so mad about how the Epstein rollout went. But now he's back on the team. And so he sends this tweet. He's constantly tweeting. And this is kind of a key thing to understand about Dan Bongino. From the beginning, he has been under this pressure. And I think often sort of pressure that he imagines from the right. That's like, we got to get, all of these passions of theirs. Who took cocaine to the White House under Biden? Who was the January 6th pipe bomber? Was it an FBI false flag? Whatever. And they haven't figured it out. And certainly, we haven't arrested any of the people they wanted arrested. And so he's always tweeting like, this is not a vacation to me. I'm working so hard. And in this case, he's hyping up the Tulsi Gabbard stuff. And so he tweets, what I've seen has shocked me to my core. I'll never be the same again. So he's trying to move on from Epstein. when people see that, I mean, the reaction was like, surely this is not about some intel report that we don't think was fairly handled or was rushed. This has to be about QAnon. This has to be about Epstein still. So that was sort of more fuel for the fire. People were saying, Bongino, it's like his hair is going to go white. He's been so shocked by the truth of how the world is run.
I saw that tweet, and it was around the Russiagate stuff. And so around when, remember, Kash Patel found a bunch of documents in the trash, basically. In a
oh my God, the burn bags.
Yeah. And I was like, is Bongino tweeting that about the fucking papers in the burn bag? Because they didn't really, I mean, even if you buy into the conspiracy, that shouldn't shock you to your core.
The burn bags are such a classic Kash Patel operation. Even back when he was a congressional staffer, he always, for Nunes, he always has there's a document that has to be uncovered. It was the Release the Memo campaign.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then suddenly we're told the burn bags were trying to destroy the files. But really, the index here that supposedly contains the smoking gun email, I mean, it seems like that was pretty widespread in the government. I mean, it was classified. So this idea that, we just stopped the FBI from destroying these files seems a little suspicious.
Well, it was John Durham that conducted the investigation, who was appointed by Bill Barr, Trump's attorney general. John Durham spent a long time trying to prove some of these Russia hoax conspiracies on the right, came up short, but then stashed away the real evidence in a burn bag and hoped that after 4 years of Biden, Trump would return and Kash Patel would find it in a back room somewhere. It's wild. I don't know how you even connect the string.
We need a little more narrative on this story. I
do.
agree. It was kind of being thrown out, but what's the deal? Was Kash, it was late night. He was looking for the vending machine. What happened?
Tell a story about how this was uncovered and the motivation behind it ending up there in the first place. Just at least come up with something. All right, let's turn to one of the president's most trusted advisors, a real voice of reason in MAGA World, Laura Loomer.
Of course.
So Trump said this week, he was asked again about her. He said he really likes her. And her job as an informal outside advisor, as far as I can tell, seems to be getting administration officials fired who she decides aren't sufficiently loyal to Trump or the MAGA movement. So far, she's taken credit for at least 16 firings, including the general counsel of the NSA and recently an academic chair at West Point. On Monday, you reported that Loomer's own fans may be starting to turn on her over the resignation of a top FDA official who was beloved by RFK Jr.'s MAHA folks. What is this story all about?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I mean, so for months now, Laura Loomer has had this really outsized control in Washington. I call it Loomocracy. I mean, she can just go in and take out whoever she wants. And this is quite a turn, right? I mean, this is a few years ago. She was locking herself up to Twitter headquarters. I mean, she was a laughingstock even on the right. But because people, either she's digging it up or some mix of people feeding it to her, she finds, some Trump appointee with a podcast interview 8 years ago saying, I don't know about Donald Trump, gets him out. But at the same time, she seems to get onto these policy issues that she's expressed no interest in before in a way that her interests often align with big business in ways that I would describe as curious. For example, she got very passionate about Venezuelan oil sanctions in a way that I believe Chevron, she was advocating for basically the Chevron position to keep working with Venezuela. Not typically what you would expect a right-wing influencer to get into.
No.
She's been very critical of this Puerto Rican financial control board that Trump just purged in a way that, why does she care about this all of a sudden? And then there's the case of Vinay Prasad, who is in charge of, is sort of a RFK Jr. acolyte in charge of a lot of the medicine and vaccine approvals at the FDA. And she, I would say, I don't think this guy's politics and mine really align, but she seems to have really done him dirty here. There was this clip where he's saying, these crazy liberals, they probably have, they're acting like, I've got a Trump voodoo doll and I put pins in it. So she cuts that and she goes, my God, this man has a Trump voodoo doll. We've got to get him out.
Wait, so when she did that, some people on the right alleged that she was doing the bidding of drug companies?
Yeah, so there's this drug company called Sarepta that has kind of a long-running feud with Prasad over this muscular dystrophy drug they have. And basically, even before he was in the FDA, he was like, this drug should not have been approved. This drug is dangerous. And then in July, the FDA said, well, 2 people taking this drug have died, and so we're going to put it on hold. And so this was obviously terrible for this drug company. Their stock went down. Then a few days later, Laura Loomer suddenly goes on a tear against this guy. And so there have been a lot of kind of other prominent right-wing influencers who are saying, what's going on here? Are you taking money from this company? She denies it. But it is curious. It's sort of just the latest example of her, I think, using her influence in ways that at least people are accusing her of being on the take.
Well, so there's two options here, and you lay them out. One was which she actually does have some kind of relationship, professional relationship with this drug company. The other is, you pointed out that accusing each other of grifting and taking money and being bought and sold by corporate interests is like common among the MAGA set. When they're mad at someone else, they just like accuse them of being a corporate stooge. But we might learn a little bit more about where Laura Loomer's money comes from and how she gets paid because of Bill Maher. Is that right?
Yeah, of course, Bill Maher is riding to the rescue. He's going to figure it out. I mean, this is such a strange situation. And I should say, I mean, this is like a serious issue, right? Because we're talking about people dying from a drug, and now that Vinay Prasad has been pushed out, right before he resigned, the FDA said, back on, you can use this drug again in trials. So, I mean, this is potentially dangerous stuff here. And if the idea is that Laura Loomer can just fire off a tweet and change government policy, it's ominous. But last year, Bill Maher, there was a point where Laura Loomer was really palling around with Trump. She was on the plane. And Bill Maher implied, or basically said, I think Laura Loomer is sleeping with Donald Trump. Laura Loomer sues Maher and HBO over that. But now, I mean, in kind of classic Laura Loomer fashion, she has a history of these lawsuits that go off the rails. And so now she is basically, HBO says, well, if you say we destroyed your reputation, we prevented you from getting a role in the Trump administration, we can't help but notice that you seem to be extremely powerful and influential now. So could you provide us with proof that you lost income and proof of your meetings with Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff? And we need all the details on these meetings because you're supposedly such an outcast, but you don't seem to be. And the judge said, yeah, that makes sense. And so now, unless Laura Loomer is just going to default in this lawsuit, she's going to have to provide HBO with evidence of all her income sources, her contacts with the White House. So it's potentially, if that stuff gets into the court record, I think it could be very illuminating.
I know that, like, back at the end of the campaign, there was some concern in Trump's circle about Laura Loomer advising him and Laura Loomer being on the plane. It seems like that's all gone now. Like, is there anyone have you heard about anyone in the White House who's like, we should keep this Laura Loomer person away since she is a self-described Islamophobe and kooky as they come? Or is that just like, whatever?
I don't think that concern has gone away. I think she's just gotten too powerful. I mean, I think that basically, there have been a lot of profiles of her written this week about how, she's running roughshod over the administration. And people are like, I wish we could get her out, or I wish she could stop disrupting our policy plans, like getting the kind of the second or third ranking guy at the FDA fired. But, what can we do?
Wow. And that's comforting. Big announcement.
What do we got?
Dan's in the Epstein files. So got to get ahead of that.
No, that's not it. We're here to announce something. It's called CrookedCon. In November, it will have been a year since Donald Trump won again. And everyone has had some time to sit and think about what we've all done and what we haven't done. And we wanted to get everyone together who doesn't want Donald Trump or someone like Donald Trump to be president again to talk about the path forward.
Republicans have their CPAC.
Oh, yeah.
This is DPAC.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why didn't we call
need a
it
better
DPAC?
name?
We're going to
This is a terrible name. This is a
big...
terrible name. Truthfully, Republicans have been really smart about this, and they gather everyone together. And sure, at the beginning, it seemed like a bunch of fringe crazies, but guess who's now running the government? Those fringe crazies who started CPAC. So we need to get together, talk about what's going on, get smarter, get better, maybe trying to figure out how we screwed up so bad in the past, and move forward.
If you have seen the intra-party debate in the Democratic Party play out on the internet and in the media, you've probably noticed that it's maybe not the most constructive thing to do.
Not always.
So a real constructive thing we thought would be to get people together in person and have a bunch of conversations with organizers, strategists, politicians, the cool ones.
If you work in politics at any level, from Capitol Hill to in your community, this is the place to go to learn what's happening in this country, to learn from some of the smartest people out there, and meet the people who are on the front lines trying to beat MAGA.
Plus, we're going to figure out a way to stop those text messages.
Yes.
Truly, like, if there's one thing that can come out of this event, it is stopping the text messages, Dan.
I don't think we should put that on ourselves. The measure of success can be attend this event, never get an annoying text from a Democratic politician again.
It's a high bar.
And it's going to be in D.C. We're going to gather at the Ellipse.
Gonna be wild.
It's gonna be
It'll
wild.
be wild. It'll be wild.
No, it's going to be at the
Wharf.
Wharf.
It's gonna be at the wharf.
We're calling it the Wharf.
Are we calling it
It's
the
the
wharf?
wharf, right?
It's the wharf.
It's
called
gonna
the
be a
wharf.
place that's so new that when we lived there, we didn't even.
It was just a dock.
It was just a dock. It was just now it's a whole wharf. And in case you guys think it's going to be just us neolib Obama shills,
Has
we're going to
people way
have
to the right of us.
people from across the political spectrum. If that political spectrum is from the left to the center right.
It'll run from the left to Tim Miller. Basically, that's the and Sarah. That's really the bounce.
We're going to get everyone together and we're going to have some fun. We're also going to do a Pod Save America show the first night just to kick things off. And then the next day we're going to all get together and get down to business, you know?
Yeah, get down to business and fun.
There'll be alcohol.
Yeah, Dan's gonna do shots.
Dan's going to do shots.
If we can solve the text message problem, I'll definitely do shots.
Yeah, what happens at the wharf stays at the wharf.
Is it even called the Wharf?
We don't even know if it's called the wharf. What if it's not called the wharf?
Anyway, get your tickets. crookedcon.com.
Is it crookedcon.com?
Yes.
Hey, great job getting crookedcon.com.
crookedcon.com.
Stay tuned for more information, but we're gonna be announcing our lineup soon.
November 6th and 7th, Washington, D.C. Be there. Grab tickets. Go online. crooked.com.com. Sorry, I can't believe we're getting crookedcon.com. 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 Offline is brought to you by Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, you don't bounce back the next day like you used to. You got to make a choice. You either have a great night or a great next day. This was me until I found pre-alcohol. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you will feel your best tomorrow. Love, love, love Z-Biotics.
Huge fans.
I have them hidden all over the house in my bag, anywhere I can, because the toughest thing, as I always say, is remembering to
You
take.
gotta remember
You
it.
got to remember to
You
take the
gotta
prebiotic.
remember it.
But once you do take
Boy,
Z-Biotics,
Things are going your way.
you can have a few drinks and you will have no rough mornings.
No rough morning at all.
No rough mornings. The final days of summer are here for you to enjoy, whether you're heading to the beach, camping in the woods, or squeezing in one last vacation road trip. Don't forget to bring Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink. Drink a pre-alcohol before drinking and enjoy every day of summer to the fullest. Go to zbiotics.com/offline to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use offline at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked.
They won't ask you a single question.
Not one. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/offline and use the code offline at checkout for 15% off. Offline is brought to you by Civitech. In local elections across the country, races are being handed to MAGA candidates simply because no one shows up to vote. In fact, there are still around 50,000 local elections this year. There are millions of unregistered Democratic and progressive voters nationwide that can make all the difference in 2025 and beyond. That's where Civitech comes in. They're the secret weapon for progressive campaigns, advocacy groups, and nonprofits looking to make real change. With Civitech, you get access to their proprietary database and direct mail voter registration programs that are proven to be successful. Whether you're running for office, supporting a local cause, or just tired of seeing your district flip by default, Civitech helps you register more voters. These tools aren't just for national campaigns. They support candidates and organizations down to the local level, where individual voters hold the most power and are the most difficult to mobilize. So if you're working on voter registration, turnout, or engagement, head to civitech.io/offline. That's civitech.io/offline. Get the tools, the data, and support you need to truly move the needle this election cycle with Civitech. All right, I saved my favorite deranged conspiracy theory for last, which I first learned all the details about from your Bulwark colleague Tim Miller on one of our shows last week. Candace Owens claims that French First Lady Brigitte Macron is a criminal, a transgender woman, and that French President Emmanuel Macron is not just her husband, but also her son. 2 weeks ago, the Macrons, quite reasonably, filed a 22-count defamation lawsuit against Owens in the United States. But according to your reporting, Owens has been peddling this absolutely ridiculous conspiracy as early as March 2024. what the fuck is that? I was like, I had heard something about this, but until Tim really unspooled the details and then I read some of your reporting, I did not know the extent of it.
This is crazy. I mean, and yeah, I had the displeasure of, I had to watch all these videos and get to the bottom of it. I thought for a while that this was just like something she was throwing out, like Brigitte Macron is trans, or in the same way that they throw out that Michelle Obama's trans. But there's this whole like worldview, and it goes back to the Middle Ages. I mean, her belief about what's going on here. I mean, she basically, the lawsuit is interesting because it focuses a lot on the economic benefits to Candace Owens of saying this. And so basically she's leaving the Daily Wire in March 2024 under a cloud. She's fighting with Ben Shapiro. And then suddenly she says, oh my gosh, I dug up this years old thing about Brigitte Macron being trans from the French far right. And basically her allegation is that Brigitte Macron is in fact her brother, a guy named Jean-Michel, and that Jean-Michel became Brigitte Macron in his 30s, transitioned. And then also maybe Emmanuel Macron is Jean-Michel's son, and maybe they're part of this CIA mind control experiment and maybe murdering their critics, and perhaps a cult dating back hundreds of years that's out to undermine all of society. So she's throwing out a lot, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Wow. I didn't know that it goes back hundreds of years as well.
Yeah, well, that's why it was an 8-part series.
My question for Tim, and just in general, when I heard about this, was like, the clip of Candace Owens being like, bring it on, bring on the lawsuit, I'll see you in discovery, I'm so right on the... It's like, she is not backing down at all, and I don't understand how you don't even back down a little bit, or she doesn't seem afraid at all that this lawsuit could succeed against her. Like, what is going on there? Do you think she's just genuinely believes her own bullshit?
It's really mysterious. I mean, on one hand, she could potentially have a lot of money to draw on. Her husband is really rich, comes from this wealthy British family. On the other hand, it's, and this is a serious case. I mean, I spoke to lawyers who said, this is really legit. Like, this is not something that's going to get tossed out immediately in court. The Macrons have hired Claire Locke, which is a very heavy duty defamation firm that does a lot of, cease and desist type work on behalf of right wing figures in the U.S. So, I mean, it's a tough one to deal with, I think. But as you said, I mean, it seems like her defense, she could say, well, I don't know, I really believed it. Or she could say that, this is all opinion stuff, don't take me seriously. But I don't think either of those are great options for her.
What do you think in general of lawsuits like these as a method of fighting back against conspiracy theories and misinformation? Or do they tend to be effective?
Well, we're certainly in an age where I think they've had a lot of success. I mean, obviously we think about the Dominion lawsuit, the Smartmatic cases that are related to the 2020 election, imagined theft are still going on. Mike Lindell of MyPillow fame recently got off with a relatively light $2 million judgment recently. But yeah, I mean, I think we're in this age where because these lawsuits have been so effective, another one, obviously, Sandy Hook and Alex Jones, these lawsuits are pretty effective for the most part. And so as a result, we've seen a lot of people on the right transition from saying, like, that guy stole the election, into, as I should say, Dinesh D'Souza had to apologize recently for accusing some guy of being involved in election theft. So they've transitioned to that into a more kind of like the deep state did it, kind of a blander thing. And so I think that's why Candace Owens is getting so much attention and traffic from specifically saying, like, this is a trans criminal, because a lot of other people aren't willing to do that stuff anymore because of those lawsuits.
Well, she's so brave. On the topic of fake news, there's an article in The Atlantic this week that dives into Gen Z's news consumption, which increasingly comes from TikTok. Close to 40% of adults under 30 use the app to stay up to date on current affairs. That's according to a Pew poll from last fall. Meanwhile, less than 1% of accounts on TikTok that people are following are traditional media outlets. Instead, people are following newsfluencers, put that in quotations, like Aaron Parnas or Jack Mack. The piece quotes a media professor at USC who said that for Gen Z's news consumption, quote, the default position is, algorithm, let the information flow over me. I'll interrupt it when I see something interesting. As a journalist who spends a lot of time both experiencing and reporting on algorithmic feeds, how do you feel about that?
I don't feel great. I mean, on one hand, it seems like the horse has left the barn and there's nothing certainly I can do about it. But yeah, I mean, you read that article and it's all these people saying, I kind of consume news in this way where it's not really clear to me what the news is. Like I'm getting it sort of third or fourth hand in the forms of these memes or skits, but I don't really know what the original news was. We have these incidents where, it's in my mind because I'm in DC, but there was this idea that was really big on TikTok of all these girls were going missing. Thousands of girls were missing. And it was just because the police department had never said, oh, by the way, we found this runaway, and so you have these things that get enormous on social media and really spin out of control. I mean, I think the people quoted in that article who say, yeah, this is like how I get my news is someone just reading a tweet from an actual news outlet. I think it's pretty grim.
It is quite grim, and I think I heard Sarah Longwell, your Bulwark colleague, talk about this with some of her focus groups. I've also experienced this, where you always ask people in a focus group, where do you get your news? And in the last couple years, you get a lot more people who are just like, oh, I just get it from my phone or on the internet or from my feeds, and they don't even have a specific platform they're talking about. They don't mention media outlets. They don't talk about any specific journalists. It's just they can't remember where they got their news. They just know that it comes through their phone. And I do think that is the end. Like if you don't, and then you have people in this piece saying, well, I know that it's not definitely correct, so I usually try to Google to check it. So now we're just like Googling to check news that we got from someone who's not necessarily a journalist, and that's how we're finding our information, but we're letting it all wash over us, and hopefully we'll take the time to look it up, but if not, whatever.
I also, to be frank, I don't believe those people who are like, well, don't worry, I'm rigorously doing the back work. After I see a funny TikTok skit, I pause my TikTok and I go read the articles.
I do want to talk about one story, controversy, I guess, that began on TikTok, and now, I don't know, this might be day 15 or 16. We do have to talk about Sydney Sweeney. We are required to talk about that, unfortunately. Because I can't help myself. I got into a Twitter fight about this story with
I just
Megyn
saw that, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. And so, she's now decided that it's Beyonce's jeans ad that deserves criticism, and that the right-wing media's roadblocked coverage of the Sweeney ad over the last week is warranted because the left, quote unquote, started it. I will not subject listeners to any more details about my exchange with Megyn. You can all check it out if you hate yourselves. But I did want to bring it up because there is this dynamic now where right-wing media and now the Trump White House keep trying to make the Democratic Party, or the left broadly defined, own the silliest, craziest, weirdest takes from random posters and think pieces, even if it's just a few, which then fuels more discourse around a controversy that most normal people in the country wouldn't think is a controversy. What do you make of sort of the algorithmic path that these controversies travel now?
Yeah, I think it's a real issue for Democrats. There's this, look, that's why they call it libs of TikTok, right? They have this whole apparatus built up to find one person with kind of an off-putting demeanor or dyed hair or whatever with like 200 followers on Twitter. And then they'll say, like this, what do you think of this? And certainly in the case of Sydney Sweeney, I think a lot of pragmatic liberals were saying, well, let's not pick a fight on the popular, attractive actress and say that's what we're against. But, all it takes is, a couple influencers, social justice type people to say, we're mad about this, and then it can create this whole cycle. I was struck in your discourse with Megyn Kelly, when she said, like, you started this fight, John Favreau, and now we're going to finish it. I was just like, John didn't start this. There's nothing, he didn't do anything.
Of course there are some liberals, like you said, I'm sure, who are like, this is not a fight to pick. But there's also, like, if I hadn't seen some of the posters say that it's Nazi or eugenics, like if I didn't know anything about it and I just saw the Sydney Sweeney ad, I wouldn't even think for a second that there was a problematic in any way. It's just a good-looking actress in a jeans ad. One of the most famous in the world right now. It's like, obviously, good for American Eagle. They got Sydney Sweeney for their jeans ad. Same thing with Beyonce in a jeans ad for Levi's. Like, I just don't. It is wild how much they feel the need to keep these culture wars going and to feed the flames of them. And I do think, like, I can't tell if some of it is they genuinely believe that most of the left feels this way because in their feeds they're seeing outrage, or they're just, they're just manufacturing it because it's good content and good for clicks. Maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know.
I mean, I do think it's good. It's good content, and also, I mean, it's a lot more fun for Megyn Kelly to talk about that than to talk about Epstein.
Yeah,
and to say, I mean, they're loving this. I mean, there's a reason this thing has stretched into 2 weeks because then you don't have to be doing, your daily YouTube show about how, we want the files to come out, but maybe not that quickly, or not if they're about Trump. I mean, it's a much simpler thing to talk about Sydney Sweeney.
It is. One last thing. Speaking of people's Twitter exchanges, I noticed you were tweeting about a rather intense civil war that broke out on Twitter last night between MAGA influencers. It was over an engagement ring, but it also involved accusations of infidelity, dildos, and getting, and this is a direct quote, fingered in the middle of a hotel lobby at a TPUSA event. My only question, Will, is this story typical or atypical of the beat that you cover?
This is such a typical story.
Okay,
I mean, I had been seeing this develop for several days, and then I was like, all right, enough. I should say the TPUSA lobby fingering incident. This has like been much discussed for several years on the right.
Oh.
I've been in Twitter Spaces where people will be like, "Well, we all know what went down in the lobby there that day," and I'm like, God, they really talk openly about this stuff. But I mean, yeah, this was a case where one of these kind of right wing women got engaged, and then some of them started saying, "Not much of a rock there. Well, it looks like crap." And then suddenly people were like, "Why don't you shut up, whore?" And it got crazy. Over on the Bulwark YouTube channel, Tim and Sam Stein and I devoted, I think, 20 minutes today to explaining. We go beat by beat. If people want every twist and turn, we tried to figure it out.
I'll be watching that after this, and I laughed really hard when you said this was not the first dildo related fall from grace from a right wing influencer, and that seems like it would be an interesting series in its own,
Yeah, no, there was a guy in the past, kind of a big manosphere guy, a big beard, who got caught making all of this kind of porn starring just himself, and then he kind of fell from grace in the machismo community.
Tommy made me promise that I'd ask you if you could give us the dill do's and don'ts of being at a TPUSA conference. So there, I did it. That's it.
They seem to get pretty wild to me. I mean, based on the stories I've heard.
Will, thank you so much for joining. This was a really fun and also terrifying spin through all of the conspiracies driving MAGA World on the internet these days. But I thought it was very informative, and thanks for the work you're doing at the Bulwark.
Thanks for having me.